Welcome back, everybody, to the Modern Farming Podcast. Brad and I are here again. I'm on the road. Brad's at home, and we have one of the coolest guests we're going to have. And the reason is that lovely little riff that you hear on the Modern Farming Podcast every Friday actually comes from Chris DeCubellis. So we're really excited to have Chris on. I don't know how we got 4 months into the podcast without having the guy who does the music for us on, but Chris, we're really excited to have you. I know you do a lot of work with youth and the animal sciences. Your real position is actually an extension agent for the University of IFAS. So everybody is very grateful for the work that you do, and I know it's very specialized. So thanks for being on the Modern Farming Podcast. We're really looking forward to talking to you here tonight.
Thank you all for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you all virtually here.
If you can, just share a little bit more about your story as an extension agent, what you're doing with the youth, how you're working with them, and really some of the cool projects you got going on.
Well, I've worked for the University of Florida Extension Service now for over 25 years, but it goes farther back than that. I grew up in Florida on a small family farm, and my family's been in Pasco County for over 100 years, and we were customers of the Extension Service when I was a kid growing up, and I am a product of that organization myself. They had a hand in, I guess, helping me get to where I was, and I went to the University of Florida and learned about careers in ag, including extension, and so I started soon after graduation in extension, and I've made it my career. It's nice to have a job where you get to help people, and that's what we do in extension. We get paid to help people, provide information, help solve problems, and in my particular position, I get to work with young people in positive youth development, and it's just been a wonderful career up to this point. I've really been blessed.
Yeah, it's so special. So tell me, there's extension agents working specifically with youth. So what does that program look like? How does that work?
Yeah, so extension started as a partnership between the USDA and the local land grant universities in each state, which we have 2 in Florida, UF and Florida A&M, and the local governments. And originally it was to extend information from the land grant universities and USDA out to farmers. And over 100 years ago, and then like today, adults aren't as sometimes easy to adopt new information as kids, And so they had this great innovation of hybrid seed corn that they wanted farmers to try. Well, farmers didn't want to try it. They were like, no, we've always kept our own seed corn. We're not going to try that. And so they started a club for young people to try this hybrid corn. And pretty soon the farmers noticed that their kids' plots were outproducing, per acre their own. And that's kind of how 4-H got started. It dates back to these corn clubs and tomato clubs that they had for young people to try new varieties, new cultivars. And it's grown from there. So 4-H is over 100 years old. And it specializes probably better, in my opinion, better than any other organization in positive youth development. We try to, that's a fancy kind of academic way of saying, we're interested in positively developing the whole young person, their head, their heart, their hands. We want them to be able to think. We want them to be able to do things with their hands. We want them to have empathy for other people, care, and we want them to live healthy lives. And that helps put them on a trajectory to thrive as adults. Here in our great country, we live in the United States, the greatest country on earth. But research shows us, even in our great land, only about 1 in 4 kids are on a trajectory to thrive. If you look at the data, there's a lot of hurting young people out there. And the kids that we get to work with in 4-H, we get to help build upon something that really sparks their interest. We call it a project. And it could be raising a pig or a garden, or it could be sewing or cooking or building a birdhouse or programming a computer. There's about 100 different projects kids can choose from. And it doesn't really matter what project sparks their interest, because through that project work, that kid can learn leadership skills and public speaking skills, record keeping, responsibility, all these life skills that will help that young person become successful as they grow and as they become an adult. and as they contribute to society. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that you never know where these cows, I tell the kids all the time, you never know where these cows will take you. A kid falls in love with a heifer and has a heifer project. You might go on into biomedical engineering as a result of that heifer project that you had when you were a kid. You never know where these cows or these pigs or whatever it is can take you as an adult.
Yeah, so I've never seen a kid in school or in or anything around anything with ag. They gravitate to it immediately. Almost every child. You never see anyone backing away from it. They all seem to want to dive right in and get their hands dirty.
That's absolutely right. It's amazing.
Go ahead.
It's amazing that sometimes as in extension we hatch chicks out in classes, elementary classrooms, for instance, and you would be amazed how those kids are just in wonder at these chicks hatching. Just for them to see that, it really gets their attention, and then you can teach from there. You can teach so many concepts from that. But animals do have a great way of capturing a young person's attention, and that's just one example. I'm kind of biased because I'm the animal guy, but.
Well, I tell you, those little chicks they have at the feed store or whatever, every year they have those. I mean, their sales must be doubled during spring months just because the chicks are there under the lights and everyone wants a handful. It's the coolest thing in the world. So what part of the state, you're obviously in Florida. For our listeners who are all over the country, or we actually have, I don't know, last time we checked, Brad, like 7 different countries tune into us here. So, Chris, you're in Florida. What part of Florida do you operate in?
My office is in Gainesville, but I cover the whole state. I'm a state specialized agent. So my office is the whole state of Florida, you could say. So I might show up in the Panhandle one day and I may be down in Okeechobee the next. You never know where I'm going to pop up in the Sunshine State.
Yeah. So how have you seen 4-H? I mean, you came through it yourself. The history of it. How have you seen it change over the years?
I think the biggest change, in my opinion, has been since the pandemic, where we've added a lot of virtual experiences. Kids are kids. We think sometimes that. And like I mentioned, I've done this now for 25 years. Of course, I was a kid myself before that. And kids are kind of kids. If they have support from their parents or from their community or from their church or from organizations like 4-H, there's good kids today. There's a lot of good kids today. There's a lot of good kids yesterday. And there'll be good kids tomorrow. And sometimes we watch the news and we get a little down maybe on what we see as the modern young person. But if you ever get to feeling a little sad about the state of young people in America, come down to the Florida State Fair or your local county fair or whatever state or county you're in when the fair's in, and look at those 4-H and FFA kids, and you'll start feeling a whole lot better about young people today and about the future of our country, because there are still a lot of good people. But I would say that 4-H has changed since the pandemic in that we now have virtual opportunity, like we're meeting tonight virtually. Yeah. And this is something probably 10 years ago, we would have had to have scheduled a meeting somewhere and all gotten together and drove to a central location. But we're starting to do this in 4-H. I've got myself 2 virtual 4-H clubs that I run as a state specialist. I run them from my home office, and I've got kids from Escambia County all the way down, literally from Pensacola down to Palm Beach. I've got kids in my 2 virtual clubs, and I, as their state specialist, can kind of help them on their specialized projects. And it's been that to me is the biggest thing, because we still have the in-person clubs, and there's still so much value to that. I don't ever want to de-emphasize how important those one-on-one interactions are with young people.
Absolutely.
But using technology like this, and like Zoom and other forms of technology to bring kids together from all over the place, that's been the biggest change that I think I've seen in my career.
Yeah.
So you'll actually have kids that have rabbits or chickens or pigs or whatever, and y'all can Zoom and have class, and they
Right.
can ask questions.
Right. One of my clubs is a poultry club. And so the kids they can be on their phone on Zoom and walk out to their chicken coop and show me, a broody hen with their phone in real time. And the rest of the kids can be watching. Or they can show me, sometimes their moms will let their kids bring their new hen into the house and hold it up to the camera and show everybody. And it's just amazing how that, and me in real time, or they can say, well, can you look at this? And what do you think? Why is this egg this shape? Or, who knows what conundrum the kids come up with. They can always find something to ask a million questions about, but they can do it in real time and get fast answers. And if I don't know sometimes they stump me, but I know that through the land grant university system, I could probably find them an answer, a research-based answer, in a very relative, sometimes by the end of the meeting. Sometimes I can be looking it up while they're still asking their question and find them an answer. But it's just the speed of back years ago, I can remember when I was a kid writing a letter to my county agent at one point asking a question and waiting for the mail. And weeks later, you get an answer. Whereas the kid on Zoom with their own phone can be looking at me and I'm looking at them and they're chicken and giving them an answer right now. And they're maybe in Volusia County. And here I am in Alachua County.
Yeah.
The amount of people you can touch is pretty much limitless then.
It's crazy. Yes, sir. Yeah. It really makes you think about tearing down different barriers as far as county lines and, even state lines. I mean, we hadn't opened it up to other states, but there's nothing to say we couldn't, I guess, if the other state would be willing to have us. But yeah, the sky is sort of the limit on this virtual education. I think that's going to be, well, you see it in all sorts of education, schools, everything.
Yeah. So you bring up an interesting subject. So Florida, compared to some of our neighbors, say Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, maybe even the Carolinas a little bit, how is our 4-H system differ from the surrounding states from us? And do you folks talk to each other? Is it more of a national thing, or is it more of a local state-run program?
Well, 4-H is international. There's programs around the countries around the world. I think, well, I know it's in every state in the country, and it's in every, we have opportunities for kids in every county and the Seminole tribe here in Florida. We have in Florida currently, we reach about 200,000 kids on any given year here in Florida 4-H. That's through our camping program, in-school programs, clubs, everything we do. I want to say that the Southeast has probably the largest enrollment data nationwide. The southern state, Texas, Florida, Georgia, we all do pretty good as far as enrollment. The biggest, I guess, difference that I'm aware of, some states are more in schools, and we're in school too, but we also have community club programs. And so Georgia probably has a larger in classroom program, and Florida has a better community club, or I say better, a more robust as far as numbers community club program, is where we have volunteer leaders, and they might meet in people's houses or in community centers or churches or wherever 4-H clubs meet. And we do have school clubs. We have school programs too. But whereas Georgia, I believe every third grader in Georgia in that grade is in 4-H. And so just a nuance of differences of how you reach kids. Yeah.
So so is there an age limit? I know 45, 50 years ago when I was showing animals, the only people that were in 4-H that I knew of was because they weren't old enough to be in FFA, so they could show a steer. And that was my knowledge of 4-H. And my eyes have really been open in the last couple of years about what it really is. But so is there an age limit? I mean, is it?
Yes, sir. Our youngest kids are 5, and they go through 18. Now there is collegiate 4-H as well too. There's a few of our colleges here in Florida. I think 2. UF I know has a collegiate 4-H. But for our traditional 4-H program from young people, it's 5 through 18. And And if we lose kids to FFA, I think that teenagers, I tell them all the time, join both organizations. But I was at FFA. I'm a proud alum of FFA. And if a kid has to make a choice, I don't mind losing a kid to FFA if they can't do both. But what I hate doing is losing a kid to nothing. If I lose a kid to FFA or even baseball or whatever, something, anything, it's fine. But I don't like losing them to nothing. If they're just going to sit at home and play games or not do anything, then I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Do you encounter that a lot?
Not really. I don't. Now, we have all of our counties have county 4-H programs, and they have local county agents and volunteers and that run the local programs. And I mean, I know we do sometimes lose children. It's just about people move. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why young people might not re-enroll. But
yeah. So what are some of the projects that you manage either virtually or in person? What are some of your favorite projects that you implement there?
Well, I work a lot with the dairy program, so that's a favorite of mine. That's a program that young people can really learn a lot in, raising a dairy heifer, and especially if they raise her until she's a cow. A lot of our kids will get a heifer and show her, and then she'll go back to the dairy, and they'll get another heifer the next year, another calf. And some kids keep the same heifer. They may keep the same heifer for 10 years and then milk her. And if a kid does that, that is that's a character building experience right there. Milking a cow today. And there's so much so that we do, the science involved in a dairy project. You think about lactation and dairy nutrition, and kids will learn so much science in a dairy project. They'll also learn hard work. And we have a lot of opportunities for our dairy youth, is things like Quiz Bowl, which is like a game show for dairy cow facts. Kids buzz in and answer questions. Dairy cattle judging, where they would have 4 animals of the same breed in a ring, and they have to place them from the highest quality animal to the lowest quality animal, and then give oral reasons why they did it. Those are great experiences as well. And there's a lot of educational opportunities for our kids in the dairy project. Poultry is one of our largest projects. It's so much easier for a young person to be able to keep a few chickens in their backyard. Maybe they don't have room for a steer or a hog or a dairy animal or a horse, but they can keep a few chickens. And we see a lot of young people in 4-H because of their poultry projects. And a lot of our kids, we call them clover buds, are 5 through 7-year-olds. They start with a chicken, and they may do the chicken until they turn 18, a chicken project. And so they may eventually add other projects as well. But a lot of our kids, their very first 4-H project is a chicken or a rabbit. We, besides one of the programs I work with and I'm very proud of now is called Work Ready Florida. And it's my other virtual club. And it's for teenagers, and it's for young people who are interested in careers in agriculture and learning about careers in ag and how they might go about getting those careers. And we have about, I think, pretty close to 200 teenagers in Florida enrolled. And the thing I'm most proud of, well, I'm proud of a lot of the kids in the club for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of those kids hadn't ever been in 4-H before. They joined as teenagers, and a lot of them don't live on farms. They live in town, or they live in an apartment in a subdivision, and they're curious about agriculture. And maybe they don't have an ag program at their school, but they still are interested in nature and agriculture. And we've got a lot of those kids, and they've made me proud. The amount of stuff the growth I've seen. We've done this program now for 3 years, and wow, we've got some pretty impressive young people that are products of that club, and they're going to go out and do great things in agriculture. I have no doubt. They really are passionate about it, and I find that this is true, that young people really are interested in agriculture if you make it known to them. So not every kid thinks about it. Think about if you live in town and you may go to the grocery, you may not even go to the grocery store. You may have your groceries delivered to your house, and you live in a subdivision and you go to school, you go home, and you maybe don't leave a 5-mile radius around your house, which if some places in Florida now you can drive 10 miles and never really leave the suburbs. And they don't even know that the robust ag that we have in this state is there. And I mean, they're just learning that for the first time, and then it excites them. They think it's great. And I've really been proud of that program. We've got some long-standing programs that I don't necessarily run, but Florida 4-H does, like our Hog and Ham program, which a colleague of mine, Dr. Carr, currently runs. And this is a program where young people raise a hog, and they learn how to fabricate that animal when it's ready, and they get to bring all that meat home and feed their family. That's a great program. And they keep records on it, and they learn how to cure and smoke meat. It's a phenomenal program. And we have a program called 4-H Legislature, where our young people go to the Florida House chambers and Senate chambers over the summer for a week and learn how our state laws are made. And, that's something that to be a good citizen, you need to know that sort of thing. And so that's just some of the things. And then we have 3 camps here in Florida. We've got Camp Cloverleaf down in Highlands County, and we've got Cherry Lake up in North Florida, and we've got Camp Timpucci out in the Panhandle. And so we've got 3 4-H camps, and of course Cherry Lake is going through some renovations, but Cloverleaf and Timpucci, they've got kids there right now as we speak, spending
are those summertime camps or do they outdoors?
Right. Yeah, they're summer experiences. Kids can go there for typically a Monday through Friday type of deal, but they do have other shorter term experiences throughout the year, weekend type things, and they're available for groups too to rent. If you have a 4-H club that would like to have a weekend getaway or something, you can go to one of our 4-H camps and rent a few rooms. Yeah.
Chris, the last 4 or 5 weeks, Brad and I have been talking to. We've had some some folks from the dairies. We've had a lot of educators, a lot of teachers, some FFA, some 4-H, and everyone always tells us the same thing. When these kids first see the chicks, or they even plant I remember planting a bean in a styrofoam cup, so like 3 bean seeds as a kid in a styrofoam cup, and watching that germinate and kind of bloom. And everyone tells us the same thing. The look on their faces, the engagement that they have is just something that is unmatched compared to a lot of other things going on in the school. Like you said, sports is sports and wonderful things that kids do, but it just seems like something when these kids start working with their hands, working in the dirt, growing something or caring for something, it opens up a whole new world to them, and it's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's empowering for young people.
Empowering is a great word.
It really is. And I tell kids, I've told kids my whole career that some of you will go into agriculture and have long careers. Others of you will just be informed consumers and understand when you buy grade A eggs, what that means.
Mm-hmm.
When what does it mean to grade A versus grade B, this sort of thing. And then some of you may have a home garden and a few chickens, and you may have a 9-to-5 job, but there is power in being able to grow and preserve and utilize one's own food. That is a power that people can have, even if you're never going to production ag. And kids like to feel like they can be empowered, especially today's young people. And I think that's why agriculture resonates with them so well, because that is something that they can do, that they can feel immediately good about. If you plant a seed and a week later or 10 days later, you see sprouts, that makes a young person feel good. Or if they take a chick and brood that chick and raise it until it's 6 months old, and then they go out there one day and there's an egg in the nest. It's empowering for that kid. They've put the work in and they see the payoff. And they may eat that egg, they may sell that egg, they may incubate that egg, but that egg's got a purpose, and they had a hand in bringing that purpose about. And that's empowering for young people.
Yeah,
sure is.
Yeah. Just being able to grow your own food. I mean, if that's all they get out of it is a 1,000 square foot garden for the rest of their life, that's huge. You can grow a radish in 21 days, and most kids don't want to eat a radish. But when they pull that radish out of the ground, they actually like it once they eat it.
Oh, absolutely.
Knock the dirt off of it and take a bite. But if you bought them one in the store, they wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, if you put a radish on a kid's plate in the lunch line, they're gonna eat around it, and when they throw their scraps away, it's gonna be thrown. But you're absolutely right. If they grow it, you can't wash it off fast enough for them to eat. And they will try anything they grow, and they'll think it's good.
That's a Michelin quality radish right there.
That's right. Absolutely right.
So let me ask you, how is 4-H funded? I know IFAS is obviously you work for your kind of you are employed by the state, or is it the university?
Yeah, I'm employed by the University of Florida. So I'm a faculty member at UF.
Okay.
And UF, being a land grant university, has 3 mandated functions: teaching, research, and extension. So the teaching, of course, is in the classroom, like when I was an undergrad or a grad student at UF and was sitting in a college classroom. That's that function. Research is when they're looking to come up with some new cure for something, or if they're going to invent Gatorade or a new cultivar of peach that grows in Florida. That's the research end of things. And then extension is on all 67 counties and the Seminole Tribe. We have extension offices, and we have faculty in those counties to extend that knowledge from the brick and mortar campus out to the local taxpayers, citizens that are paying for those, that good information. And that's where I come in, I hope. And I hope I'm making the taxpayers happy with my service to them through the extension.
You're doing a lot of good things.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly sounds that way. And so I'm always curious, and that's why I asked about the funding. Are these things, are you well funded? Is it something that is a struggle every year? You got to go through the channels of appropriations and things like that? Or
yes, we are funded in part, and it's cooperative extension. Mm-hmm. You hear that a lot of times. So the co-op is between USDA, provides some monies, the state of Florida budget provides some monies, and then every county's local board of county commissioners provides some monies. And so I don't know where you fellas are at, but if you went to your local county extension office, there would be some money from the federal government, the state, and the county supporting those people's efforts. Now, where I'm at the state, in Gainesville at UF, I'm not supported personally by county dollars. I'm just state and federal. But at the local county office, it's a 3-way. It is a true cooperative. And of course, I don't want to get political, but there are some questions about some federal funds. I don't know what's going to happen, but we have traditionally been funded very well through all 3. The national, state, and local dollars have been very good to us in extension. And of course, we can always do more if we had more, but we do what we can with what we got and try to help folks and answer questions and soil samples and all these sorts of things that extension folks do.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point in asking. I just think the local listener, the everyday Floridian, we need to make sure we support these things as a community for all the things that Chris has said here for the last 30 minutes. We need to continue to support them. And however our taxes are split up, it is what it is, but some of our tax dollars, some of our federal money does go to these programs, and they're just incredibly invaluable. I mean, all the stories we just said here, but you said it earlier, you go to your state fair, you go to your local county fair, and you walk through that, the barns that they set up, or when these kids are taking care of their hogs or their cows, the amount of work that these kids put in. So they're putting in the work now, right? They're putting in the work now all summer long when other kids are, hanging out on the lake or the beach or wherever they're doing, playing video games till 3 a.m. All these FFA kids, these 4-H kids have to get up, go feed a cow, go milk a dairy cow, go wash a pig. They got to do that all summer long. Usually it's about twice a day. And they got to go from home to the school and deal with the cows and get them all fed and clean and come back. And then 3 hours later, they got to go do it again. The amount of commitment that these kids are throwing in there, is just mind blowing to me. It blows my
Yeah.
mind every year when I go to the state fair.
Teaches them such discipline and responsibility, and they love it. Once they get their hands in it, they just want more of it, and
Yeah.
they all seem to latch to it.
Yeah, and it's so critical to support these programs. So we're just so glad that someone so passionate as yourself is doing that. So what's on the radar as you go into summer? What do things kind of taper off in the summer? Is it more extension kind of stuff and virtual meetings, or are there larger programs throughout the summer that you have to?
We have a lot of our big state programs in the summer. Last week I was on dairy farms with kids practicing dairy judging. We've already had our state 4-H contests, and this fall our kids will be going to national contests. So we were at some dairies last week looking at cows, and thanks to our dairy farmers for allowing our 4-H kids to come out and look at some of your animals. But those kids are preparing for national trips. We've got kids that will be going to national quiz bowl competitions, dairy quiz bowl competitions this summer in Vermont and Washington State. Well, I know that our Florida kids will be going there. We've got one group of Florida kids going to Scotland and Ireland for international competition. They placed nationally last fall, and they qualified for international competition. So we've got some kids going there. We've got 4-H University, which is a week at UF for kids, and we'll have several hundred teenagers from all over Florida at that. Tomorrow I got the Avian Bowl contest when we're recording this. Tomorrow I've got a bunch of kids coming to town it's like a quiz bowl contest for chicken facts, bird facts, and that's tomorrow. So it's one thing after another. It doesn't really slow down for us much. Kids are out of school, so we try to keep them busy.
Yeah. And that was another reason why I asked. Is there stuff for kids to do? Another good way to keep them out of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got our camps, our 4-H camps going on. So that's a good way if kids want a really intense week-long type thing. I think there's probably still time to sign up for some of our camps this summer. If you look at, we've got a website, camping. If you look at Florida 4-H camping, Google that. I know you can find a link to what camps are there, and different weeks have different themes. So you might find something that suits you.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All the moms and dads that have had kids out of school for 2 weeks now, and they're in your hair. Just go into what was it, 4-H camps?
If you just Google Florida 4-H camping, I know you'll find the website.
There's a great
I
way
dug into that Ask IFAS, and you've been a part of so many publications. You've been a part of writing. You had halter breaking. You had taking care of milking equipment. I mean, I just dug into every one of them. I spent an hour on that. But you've been a part of so much information that's I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Well, I'm glad somebody reads that stuff.
But there's a lot of good information in that. And I saw your name on almost every publication.
I've written quite a few of them, but that's what we're supposed to do is your state extension specialist to provide information. And my arena, of course, being the youth livestock stuff. That's
the youth side.
Yeah.
Cool.
So tell us a little bit more about that. Brad mentioned the Ask IFAS function. That obviously that's through the website, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's our extension publications. That if anybody that's an extension faculty or a UF faculty can submit a proposal for one of those publications. Now they're fact checked and peer reviewed. It's not just I can go on and put my opinion on there. If I submit something, I think at least 3 other faculty members at UF have to review it and say, yes, this guy knows what he's talking about. He didn't just make this up. And so it's hopefully when you go to our UF extension, the Ask IFAS, you know that it is sound research-based information. In other words, it's not just because I can go on a chicken blog right now or a Facebook page and get everybody's opinion on this, that, or the other, but it may not necessarily be right. And so hopefully when you go to an extension, there's a lot of information out there, but hopefully when you go to an extension approved website like the Ask IFAS, that has been research-based and it's been data backing it up, that it should be pretty accurate stuff that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Well, today I was listening to your June 8th front porch picking. And so I could tell you live on a farm. So tell us a little bit about, and that was awesome, by the way, the whole the English tune from back at the Carter family that I did not know. That's another thing I didn't know. We won't go into that, but tell us about your farm. I could see cows in the background.
Yes, sir. I live on 160 acres between Archer and Bronson, Florida, about 2.5 miles, 3 miles from Archer, in Alachua County. I'm right on the line of Levy County. Literally, my property's on the Levy County line, and I've got about. Right now, I've got about 40 head of cattle, and I've got some pine trees, and I've got a pretty large vertigrow hydroponic system. And I probably have about 50 fruit trees and grow some vegetables, conventional vegetables. Now, I got hurt. I'm not doing any vegetables right now because I got hurt a few months ago. I was in the hospital. I didn't, when it was planting time, I was in Shands Hospital. So I've been kind of sorry this year as far as my farm goes, but and I've got a flock of laying hens, about probably 50 hens and a few turkeys and ducks and some pigs, and we raise a lot of our own food here, and then we sell some vegetables, and of course I sell feeder calves like a lot of folks in Florida do.
It's cow-calf operation.
Yeah, cow-calf rest. Yes, sir.
Wow. So when you're done teaching all the ag stuff, you actually have to go tend to 160 acres of your own farm.
Right. And I always like to do that because I figure it keeps me practiced up for the kids. I don't want to tell them something that I don't, I could look in a book and say, well, this is how you clean a chicken water, or I can know it from experience. I mean, I can still look it up in the book, but then I know, well, let me tell you what's going to really work because I've done it myself. And I've always felt that it's put me in a good position to be able to, I'm very blessed to be able to do this. And I feel like I'm very blessed to be able to live on property because, it's allowed me to have a better connection, I think, with the kids because I can not only tell them the theory from a textbook or whatever, but I can tell them from experience too.
Yeah. Well, not only that, you're in that part of Florida right now that, I'm sure it's coming, and I'm sure areas around you are developing pretty quick. But right around us down here in Sarasota, Manatee counties,
oh boy,
man, just exploding. So it's hard to carve out a few acres for yourself is kind of a luxury today.
Sure is.
Yeah, to buy 100 acres today and farm, as a young person is almost impossible. Even 5 acres is hard enough anymore.
And it's not just Florida. I get some of these ag magazines and I see what land in Iowa is selling for. And I don't know how you can farm corn. It's hard enough to farm pineapples or bell peppers, some high value. I don't know how you farm field corn on $15,000 an acre land. I just don't know how people out there do it.
Yeah, it's not an easy business. Does that come up a lot with the kids? When you're talking about a career, the next step as they get into college, are some of the youth thinking that they want to have a farm and get into production, or are they looking to specialize in different areas?
Some of the kids are interested in, say, related fields like pharmaceutical sales or feed sales or fertilizer sales or some related field. Some kids are interested in production, and maybe they could be a herdsman at a large operation or something like that. And then we do have some kids that are interested in small scale farming, and I tell them never be afraid to start small. Everybody, my uncle, I never met him. He was my dad was 51 when I was born, and so my grandpa and all his brothers passed before I came up. But one of his brothers started with one cow when he was a kid, or when he was young, and he died. He had over 500 head. Of course, that was years ago. But I never tell the kids to be afraid to start small and work your way up, because you never know when a small operation can turn into a medium-sized operation, can turn into a pretty good-sized operation. And so
Yeah, if you can specialize on an acre. I mean, there's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
you can do on an acre. I mean,
You've
there's
got an
people
acre of ground, you'd be surprised how
dollars on
much
an
food you
acre.
can grow. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me. If you look at the ag economy, it is like I've farmed all through the Midwest, and it's a very difficult, it's a very difficult profession to have. If you say you're farming anything, I don't care if it's animals or crops, it's just really challenging. And then just to get the land, even if you had the money to get the land, usually that land is talked about amongst families and friends, and that usually gets sucked up. So for these young farmers to come in, it is incredibly difficult. So again, more the reason these programs like 4-H, FFA, that they're so incredibly valuable is to show the whole scope of the agricultural complex, all of the incredible positions that exist and how one can specialize. And if they're really that hung up on owning their own business, which Brad and I try to do those things, and they're not for everybody, but if they're really hung up on it, you could start your own business in one of a million ways in agriculture, serving the industry.
I mean, I know former 4-Hers that are hoof trimmers that have AI businesses. I mean, there's so many, like you said, there's all sorts of different ways you can get involved with ag.
Yeah. It's really a great profession to be in. I'm extremely grateful that I chose this path. I know both of you are the same way. So help all of our listeners, Chris. What is the best way? I know you mentioned a few websites, but what's the best way if somebody is listening to this today and is like, hey, my kid really loves hanging out with animals. What's the best way for them to learn more about 4-H in Florida or just 4-H in general?
A couple of different ways. I would always start locally. Look at your local, whatever county in Florida or county around the United States, really, your local land grant university's extension office. And they will have somebody in that office that is the 4-H person. Even if it's a one-person office, that person will know how to get involved locally in 4-H. And start locally. And you can always, if you're in Florida and interested in it, you can always contact me, and I can help you find your local person, or I can put you in one of my virtual clubs. We'd love to have you in one of those. I've got the Work Ready Florida kind of ag career club and the poultry club. You could be in one of my clubs. And the Work Ready club is for middle and high schoolers. The poultry club is 5 through 18. We'll take anybody in that club as long as they don't even have to own chickens. They just have to like chickens to be in our poultry club.
And sounds like there's no excuse not to do it if you're a kid. I mean, it's just need some help from the parents to get you going in the right direction.
That's right. And now with these virtual clubs, the parents don't even have to carry them anywhere. As long as the kid can get online, they can get in one of my virtual clubs.
Yeah. Very cool.
So it's a 4H.com kind of thing. Google 4H locally.
If you look, Florida4H.org is our website. And if you want to look, you can just Google Florida 4H or go to florida4h.org. That's our website.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Chris, well, thank you very much for being on the Modern Farming Podcast. We are always grateful to be able to talk to educators like yourself, one who's working the entire state and working both for the university, the state, and our local youth. It's just an incredible position you've got yourself. And we hope to maybe catch up again as you get closer to fairs and things like that. We'd love to catch up and follow up on some of the projects you're working on.
Yes, sir. Let us anytime. I'd be happy to join y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing my song at the beginning. I'm glad y'all like using that.
Great.
Well, I was just going to say, as I sign off here, you're going to hear Chris chime in very quickly here with his little riff. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the Modern Farming Podcast. Brad and I will be back here again next Friday to launch another show. Can't tell you how much we appreciate your support. If you can, make sure you jump on the greengenefoundation.org. That's greengenefoundation.org. Click on the podcast button there. There's a little button where you can subscribe, and you'll be the first to know when Brad and individuals like Chris are on our podcast and when that launch and how to listen to it. So everybody have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day for all the fathers that are out there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.
Appreciate you, Chris.
Thank you.